origins of testing were neither recent nor American. Historians note that rudimentary forms of testing existed as early as 2200 BC, when the Chinese emperor has its official exam every third year. During Han Dynasty, which was 206 to 220 BCE, test batteries were quite common. Civil law, military affairs, agriculture, revenue, and geography were the topics to be tested. Test has become quite well developed by the Ming Dynasty, which was the 1368 to 1644 BCE. The Western world most likely learned about testing programs through the Chinese. Charles Darwin then introduced the concept of individual differences, and through this, Sir Francis Galton, the father of mental testing and the pioneer of new experimental psychology, in the 19th century began applying Darwin's theory to the study of human beings. Before psychology was practiced as a science, it was mathematically studied. Wilhelm Wundt, who founded the first psychological laboratory in 1879 in Leipzig, Germany, together with the idea of E.H. Weber and J.H. Herbart, makes changes in the field of testing.
In 1904, Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon were appointed to create a tool to be used in assessing educational measures for children. As an attempt in evaluating individual differences in human intelligence, they developed the first major general intelligence test. The first version of the test is the Binet-Simon scale that was published in 1905. In 1908, Henry Goddard, an American psychologist, translated the version of Binet-Simon scale and made minor changes so it could be used with American children. During this time, the Binet-Simon scale had been substantially improved. In 1911, the scale received minor revision. In 1916, L. M. Thurman of Stanford University revised the Binet-Simon scale for the use in United States. His revision was known as the Stanford-Binet Intelligence Test Scale, and it contained many improvements. During 1917, Robert Yerkes, a well-known psychology professor at Harvard, developed the Army Alpha and Army Beta, as he convinced the United States government that all of the recruits should give an intelligence test as they entered World War I. World War I fueled the widespread development of group tests about this time. The scope of testing also broadened to include tests of achievement, aptitude, interest, and personality. During the brief but dramatic rise and fall of the first structured personality tests, interest in projective tests began to grow. In 1920, Hermann Rorschach, a Swiss psychologist, that published his ink blot test. He popularized the use of projective tests to assess personality. Then, he first published his Rorschach test in 1921.
The first major test publisher, the Psychological Corporation, was founded in 1921 by Cattell, Thorndike, and Woodworth. During 1922, one of the few women in the history of psychological testing was presented. She was Florence Goodenough. She created the Draw-A-Man test that is now called the Draw-A-Person test, as she published the measurement of intelligence. But her greatest contribution to psychology was the advancement of sampling in 1928. In 1923, the development in the standardized achievement test was culminated in the publication of the Stanford Achievement Test by Kelly, Rudge, and Thurman. In 1939, Wechsler-Bellevue Intelligence Test was published by David Wechsler, a Romanian-American psychologist. It received its revisions published in 1955, 1981, and 1997. In 1943, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, or the MMPI, began a new era for the structured personality test. The idea behind it was to use empirical method to determine the meaning of the test response and help revolutionize the structured personality test. At this time, personality tests based on statistical procedure called factor analysis began to emerge. By the end of the 1940s, R.B. Cathell introduced the 16 Personality Factor Questionnaire. It was considered as one of the most well-constructed questionnaire despite its declining popularity, and it is one of the important examples of a personality test developed with the aid of the factor analysis. Today, factor analysis is used in the design or validation of just about all major tests. Meanwhile, here in our country, in 1961, the Psychological Corporation was founded. In 1985, Ana Daisy Carlota, as she followed the footsteps of Virgilio Enriquez, created the Panukat ng Pagkataong Pilipino, the first measurement of Filipino personality. And later on, Gregorio H. Del Pilar created the Masaklaw na Panukat ng Loob.